All right, now we're recording. Okay, so with all the talking about Jason, okay, so guys, yeah, Jason's no longer here, and I'm going to tell you a couple of things just so that you'll all understand. Obviously, we already know that he made a mistake. We all make mistakes, and this isn't about one little mistake that he made. Could be a very costly mistake to us. We have a couple of trucks. I think there's 3 trucks that we have that are diesel trucks, but they all have a sticker right next to the gas cap that says diesel. It's a big round sticker. We had a company called Booster that was filling our trucks up. They stopped filling the diesel up because we didn't have enough diesel trucks. Currently, we're not using the gas for them right now because they got to a point where they were missing every other truck, it seemed like, for several weeks in a row. So they're working some things out. We'll work some things out. We may go back to them. But diesel trucks say diesel on them. They have a different sound when you run them, when you drive them. They're completely different than gas. If you put fuel, regular gas, into a diesel fuel truck, there's a couple of things that can happen. It can be as minor as soon as you find out you do that, you don't run the truck. If you can, you may be able to start it and get it over to the side, just out of the gas thing, and stop it, because all the fuel needs to be removed. And then you fill it back up with diesel, and if that's all you've done, most likely you've done no damage. However, you drive it around for a day, then you're going to try to start it and it won't start. That's what happened the other day, because he drove it around. He did this on Tuesday, is when he put it in there. This is the reason that it's not just a minor little deal. Because now you're going to drive it around for 2 days and say, oh, well, it's acting up. It must be because I put gas in it and I never told anybody.
Oh my God.
If you make a mistake, you tell somebody right away. Let us know, because then there's a chance we can take care of it. But you don't let it go for 2 days, potentially ruining the fuel pump and maybe the entire engine. It's a $10,000 engine.
Oh my God.
It's not just a $3,000 or $4,000 engine. It's a $10,000 diesel engine.
These are expensive.
They are.
Expensive.
So,
Expensive.
you know, the one part is we all make mistakes. I get it, but admit to your mistake right away, and let's get it so that it's not a major mistake. Because those trucks, you know, are our livelihood. That's how we get around and do our jobs. And if I have a truck, I already have one truck that someone blew an engine in before I got here. That's been sitting out parked. It was in the back and now it's in the front. But we can't afford to have, you know, people making a mistake and not admitting to it to the point now where it's a major mistake. So, I had somebody with another company I worked with. We had a jetter, and the jetters are all diesels. Okay, and they put regular gasoline in there, and then they went to a job, and they couldn't do the job. So not only do you have an issue now where I can't get the job done, right? That someone's trying to pay and their sewers are backed up and we're trying to clear out the drains. Now we've got to get the jetter back and take all the fuel out and put fuel back in and try to go back up the next day. And I mean, it's a major thing. Because all that fuel, you can't just dump that. Where does that fuel got to go? It's got to go to an environmentally safe place, usually like Safety Clean or something like that. They can dispose of it properly. So it's not like I can just fill that up, and it can't be used for anything else. Diesel and fuel gas together, it's basically waste. It's gone. Because there's oils that are in diesel fuel that don't mix with the gasoline properly. They kind of separate. So it's like putting oil and vinegar in a container and just wait for a few minutes, and you know you can shake it up. It might be okay for a few minutes, but then it just separates. That's what happens in the diesel and gas. All right, so it's not about that. It's also about attention to detail, and I talked about that. I think Monday's meeting, or maybe last week. But attention to detail has to do with, and Kevin was talking about it as well. Faucets, okay, and this just happened again yesterday, all right, and it was Jason. And I'm not trying to throw Jason under the bus, but I want you guys to understand the attention to detail. So he does a water heater flush. All right? When you do a water heater flush, I'm going to explain something to you. And I'm going to do it on the board here because it's a little easier for those of you who, I have 3 of you guys that are brand new. And Jesse's going to get to go out and fix it today. But, so in a water heater,
Good morning, that's what he meant.
okay, so you have your water heater. coming out. Now, there's a little hose bib deal here on the water heater. All right. So when you flush the water heater, basically, you have your shut-off valve and everything. You're going to shut off your water, and then you're going to drain your water heater out this deal. Now, but look how high up this hose bib is from the bottom of the water heater tank. Okay. So what happens is these tubes. You have a dip tube in there, anti-rods, dip tubes. The dip tube is going to, over time, it's going to crack and little pieces are going to come off of it, and it's going to all be settling down here. It's called sediment, right? In addition to that, you have an anode rod that collects most of the metals from the water. So you have all that heavy metal and crap is collected on the anode rod, and that basically it's kind of like it acts like a magnet almost, and it collects all that crap, but basically it also causes it to deteriorate, and little pieces of that will fall off onto the bottom of the tank rather than going into your home. Okay? So it's not taking all the hard water out, but it does help with all the metals that are in the water so that you have less metals going into your home. And that anode rod also is actually protecting the metal of the tank, because since it acts like a magnet, it's not creating as much damage to the inside of the tank. Does that make sense? So that's just a basic. I'm not getting too much into it, but the sediment down here on the bottom, when you flush out the water heater, basically what's supposed to happen is some of that stuff's coming out. All right, a lot of that sediment's coming out, because when you get rid of some of the sediment down here in the bottom of the water heater tank, now you have a better efficiency. Because I've seen water tanks that have been opened up that have sediment halfway or a third of the way up. Okay, so you're going to get all that sediment out because your hose bib deal is right here, and it's going to come out. But there's going to be some sediment that's going to still be in there, especially when you fill it back up, and now you have that sediment kind of just twirling around in the water and so on and so on, right? So then what happens is, what you're supposed to do, what I've always been taught to do, is when you turn on the water, when you turn back on the water for here, before you actually turn on the water, you go to a faucet, take off the aerator, and you turn the water on, the hot water on. Then you go turn the water onto your water heater, because now whatever sediment's floating around in the water heater is going to come right into the aerator if you don't take the aerator off. And now you're going to turn your water on, and you're going to have no hot water. It might just drip, right? So you don't want that to happen, because then guess what? So this is what happened yesterday. We did the water heater flush, all that happened. Customer says, I don't have hot water, it's just barely dripping out. 2 of my faucets. So that's something as part of our, when you do a water heater flush, we also inspect everything. And you have to know that when you turn that back on, that excess of sediment that's left in there is going to come right back out into your faucets. Okay? And then if you fill up the aerator, you won't have cold water either, because nothing's going to be able to come out, right? And I've even seen, because of not doing that properly, not flushing it out properly, another way to do it is, and this takes more time, but I've done this before, because there's certain kinds of faucets that have the stems and the handles that can get clogged with that sediment. So now it's not just an aerator that you have to replace or clean out. It could be stems that you're going to have to replace because you didn't do it properly. But what I've also done in the past is I've gone down below where the angle stop is, and I've removed the supply line, not from the angle stop, but from the faucet, and I use the bucket and just spray it out until, clean them all out. I just let water run to the closest faucet. Usually it's the bathroom right behind the water heater wall where I usually do it at. I would clear them out, make sure everything was good, but I still take off my aerators and make sure they're all clean before I go, and check all the faucets to make sure everything's flowing. That's part of what needs to be done when you do a water heater flush. Because if you don't, you're going to be getting called back. Now, how much money do we make on a water heater flush? You can tell me.
0.
Nada. Our goal is not out there. Our goal when we get to an HPC or the water heater flush, yeah, we're taking care of the water heater, we may be replacing an anode rod. That may give us money, but just flushing the water heater by itself, we make no money on. The goal is to see what else, when we're going through that plumbing inspection, what else do we find? What else do we see that needs to be done? Do they have high pressure? Did we put a gauge on to see if they have high pressure? Did we see if there's angle stops that are leaking, or supplies that are maybe the old plastic type that need to be replaced? Are they leaking? Is the toilet running? You know,
Some-
shower, do they have a pressure balanced shower valve, or they have an old style? There's all kinds of things you can check for plumbing. But our goal is not just to go rush out here, drain this sucker, fill it back up and walk away. Because now we had to go back. Jesse went back yesterday and tried to fix what he could. And when you're doing these things, so for an example, Jesse, on the faucet you were talking about yesterday, right? He says it has like an oval end on it. He said he took pictures, so we'll look at it today.
Egg shape, yeah.
Kind of like an egg shape.
Yeah.
And so some of those you can pull off as a cap, and then you have the little tool that you can take off the aerator. But I've actually seen some faucets that the aerator's built into the faucet. I'm not sure if you've seen that, Kevin. They don't come out. If they come out, you take it. You got to replace the faucet.
All the new faucet is coming with the special tools.
Yeah.
It's like a
It's like a little
couple
wing
nickel,
nut.
so
Yeah, it's like a little wing nut.
two
It has little
sizes?
things on it.
Yeah.
3 sizes, yeah.
if it's too old, you cannot disconnect.
Right.
You have to spray the WD-40 and wait till the next day.
Yeah. So if you can't get them off, that's another thing. Is a lot of times even taking an aerator off, they get so corroded
You can't put it back in.
that you can't get them off, or you're trying to get them off with a pair of channel locks without scratching them, and then you squeeze them, and now you can't put them back on. There's so many issues. So if you don't do this right, you just went from doing a free call from us paying them to do work. We're going to pay them because we're going to put a new dang faucet in, or we're going to be replacing something. So it's really, really important that you do this right. You don't start turning water on right after you do a water heater flush, because there's still sediment that's going to be in there. It's not going to be as much. You got most of it out. But you're going to have a lot of sediment still in that water heater that's kind of swirling around, because water's coming into the water heater, it's mixing up whatever didn't come out as you're filling it up, and it's going to come right back out when you turn it on. So you got to be careful with that.
And
All right.
20 or higher years old faucet, don't touch the aerator.
Yeah, right. So
Don't
that's when
touch the aerator.
that's when you take
Disconnect the
that's when you
supply
take the
line.
supply line off. Yes.
There is a 3/8 in the body. There is a 3/8 pipe, and the aerator. If you see the old with the more sediments around, don't touch it.
Yep.
Don't touch it.
And so that also makes my point. When you go in and you're looking at a really old faucet like that, and you're doing a water heater flush, that's the prime time. If you have to get a comfort advisor out there, getting Kevin out, getting Brian out, getting Sarah out, and saying, hey, look at this faucet, it's really old. As I'm doing your water heater flush, I'm going to have to take this supply line off. And when you take a supply line off, I don't have one with me, but if you guys know what a supply line looks like, there's a rubber gasket kind of built in a lot of them, right? So when you squeeze, tighten that up, it basically forms a seal around whatever you're connecting it to. Okay, once the angle's off, the other side is the faucet. So when you take that off, do you think you're going to get the exact same seal that you had originally?
Nope.
Are you going to get that to line up exactly perfect, and you're going to tighten it exactly where it was before? And then those grommets also, because of the water, has chlorine in it. Chloramine has chemicals. Those things start to not be as pliable anymore, which means, and they can crack, and there's all kinds of things they can do. So now, if you're putting on an old supply line back onto a faucet, you have a chance of what? Having a leak. And what's going to leak? A leak can cause a lot of damage, guys. A little leak like that can cause thousands of dollars of damage. So that's when you get somebody out there and say, hey, I need to flush since I'm flushing your water heater, I need to do this, and I recommend putting a new supply line on at least. The angle stop might be great, may need to be replaced as well. And by the way, your faucet's so old, I can't take the aerator off of it. That's something that I don't want it to clog, so I have to take this off. You give them options. You kind of let them know what you're doing and explain it to them. But a lot of times, the best thing to do is to get a comfort advisor to explain that for you, because they know how to explain it to a customer in a way where they understand it. You're not stumbling through it, because everyone's not a salesperson. And that takes someone with a salesperson mentality to be able to explain to a customer in a way that shows value. We want to take care of your property. We don't want you to flood out. We don't want this to happen or that to happen. But to do this right, if I flush it this way, guess what may happen? If I put this old supply line back on, guess what may happen, right? So you guys have to understand that. Any questions on that?
I got a quick question on the flush. So a lot of the newer ones have like the dip tube with the jet rod on it, where it'll kind of blast the bottom of the tank.
Mm-hmm.
When you're done draining it, shouldn't you turn the hot water on, leaving that lower bib on? to try to kind of blast some of the
Yeah.
rest of that out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea. It depends on the water heater, but
Obviously,
if you
situation
know what the
dependent.
water heater is, and you can do that, great, but,
Yeah, it works, you get a lot of sediment.
Yeah.
I always fill it about quarter way up with it open.
Try to get the water to run as
That's
clear
what I
as you
do.
can, and then
Yeah.
eliminate 2/3 of the problem before you even.
right.
And I let
Fire
that drain
back
back out and.
But I'll tell you, no matter what
Yeah.
you do with a water heater that's a tanked water heater, there's gonna be sediment left swirling around in there. You're not gonna get it all out. You can't get 100% of it out. It's just not gonna happen. I mean,
This is a good opportunity too to, when you have those aerators, when you pull out all that sludge and you tell the homeowner, even if you have to go back and unfoul something later and just say, talk to them about maybe having a field advisor come out and talk to them about water treatment.
yep.
Because, water treatment is the solution really to the problem.
If you've got a water softener and a full house filtration system, you're not gonna have that issue in your water heater to last twice as long. I mean, so there's all kinds of reasons to get them out there. When you see that stuff and say, see all these things in your aerator, there's lots of ways of doing it. But my point is, we don't just flush it, turn it back on and walk away, because now you're gonna have issues like we did yesterday. Okay? We talked about the diesel trucks and anything that's a diesel vehicle, so, I think, you have anything else, Kevin?
I just wanted to mention that, a lot of you guys are new to the company and maybe new to the industry. And it's important that you bring your own water, whatever you're gonna drink that day. Make sure you have plenty of fluids with you, because a lot of times you're on a job, you might be there for 8 hours stranded. You can always, in the event you don't bring a lunch or don't bring something to drink, you can always take one of our trucks on your break and go get, some food and some stuff like that. And it's important that you know that nobody's gonna tell you to take your break. You need to take your breaks as you see fit. You're allowed a couple 10-minute breaks and you're allowed a lunch. And that's on you. I mean, we can't manage your breaks when you're out in the field like that, because a lot of times there's no manager there. So it's okay to take the time off, just tell whoever you're working with at the time that, hey, I need to take my break, but I don't want you to think or give anybody the impression that you are not allowed to take breaks if we're, jamming on a job and we gotta get it done. That's not the case. The case is that, it's always important to take a rest and properly hydrate yourself as well. So, it's important to plan and plan on, being stuck somewhere, even though you might not be scheduled that day. But it's always a good thing to have your lunch prepared and your liquids with you.
Yeah, just to kind of add to that, we had a customer that we were doing work at, putting a full system, HVAC system in, and when I talked to the customer about it, and her perception, that's her reality, right? Her perception is her reality, that's what she thinks was happening. She sees one of our guys, they're sweating, they're up and down in the attic doing all this stuff, hasn't seen him take a break, like even a lunch break or anything, and sees him walking up the stairs, and because she's telling me, explaining this to me how it happens, and says, looked like he's ready to fall down. And said, he didn't take a break, they're working so hard, I appreciate them trying to get it done, but man, they should take a break. I offered him food, I offered him this. So, I mean, guys, it is important to do your break.
I was fine.
You need to take your breaks, and you need to make sure, listen up, guys, you need to take your breaks, and you need to make sure that, like Kevin said, you're hydrating. Even the guys, they were at my house doing stuff, and they're up in the attic, and it's hot up there. I know it's hot. It's not even a really hot day right now. It's a normal day, but up in the attic, it's 20, 25, 30 degrees hotter. So you need to stay hydrated. I mean, they brought water and they had Gatorade and stuff, but you need to do that, because that's the last thing you want to do is get lightheaded and fall through someone's
You
ceiling.
didn't show up yesterday.
And get hurt.
I thought I got you.
All right. Anything else, Kevin? All right.
That's it.
Let's get going.
Thank you.